Hopefully, we're live now. I was having some technical difficulties earlier. Yes, awesome. Okay, it worked this time. I was having some weird computer issues, but I'm glad that I got it figured out. As you can tell, I might have a theme in mind for today's story time. I decided that today I wanted to read all sorts of books about bedtime, so I am here in my very cozy and warm otter pajamas, and I'm going to read you some stories about bedtime. For those of you just tuning in, I am here today in my otter pajamas for some fun bedtime storybooks. I know it's a little bit earlier in the day for bedtime, but you know what? Never too early for a nap. So we're going to actually start out by doing a big old stretch to get us just nice and relaxed and ready for some bedtime storybooks. So I want everybody to sort of shake your shoulders, and I want you to put your hands in the air and go and just do a big yawn. Let's do one more really big yawn together. Everybody ready? Feels really good. So our first bedtime book is Little Night by Juji Morales. I love this book. I think it's got the prettiest illustrations, and I love the facial expressions in it. It just makes me really, really happy. So this is Little Night. As the long day comes to an end, Mother Sky fills a tub with falling stars and calls, "Bath time for Little Night." Little Night answers from afar, "Can't come. I am hiding, and you have to find me, Mama. Find me now." Hmm. Mother Sky looks down a rabbit hole. She puts her cheek on the darkest sand. When she peeks behind the hills, whom does she see? "I found you. I found my little knight. Face scrub, lather up, towel spread, catch little knight in the air." As the sun sets so red, Mother Sky unfolds a dress crocheted from clouds and calls, "Dressing time for little knight." Little Knight hops out of her chair. "Not now, not yet, not until you come find me, Mama. Don't forget to close your eyes." Where could you be? Mother Sky hovers by the shade of trees. She searches in the stripes of bees, and when she peeks inside the bat's cave, whom does she see? "I found you, I found my little knight. Two arms in one, one head out, but in the white dress crocheted from clouds." As the warmth of the day fades, Mother Sky fills up a glass of milk and serves pancakes on a plate. She calls, "Time to eat, little knight." Little Knight dashes past the table. "Count first, Mama, from 1 to 10. It is going to be hard to find me this time." Mother Sky counts 1, 2, 3. Let's see. She pats the raven chicks when she brushes her hand over the blueberry field, and whom does she see? "I've found you. I found my little knight. Creamy mustache, lips lick, stars dripping from the Milky Way to drink." As fireflies and moths come out, Mother Sky sits on her chair, waving her comb. She calls, "Time to comb your hair, little knight." But what does she hear? Only the hushing of the balmy wind. Mother Sky looks around, but little Night is not peeking from behind the hills, nor is she hiding in the caves, nor vanishing into the field. Where could my little Night be? "Peekaboo, Mama, I am right here." Mother sits in Little Night on her lap. With her shiny comb, she untangles the knots and twists the hair between her fingers and makes little swirls, one on the left side, one on the right. To keep them in place, she takes 3 hairpins from her pocket. Venus on the east, Mercury on the west, and Jupiter above. "Now, my little knight, take your moon ball and play. I can catch it, Mama. See me bounce it high in the air." The end. So yes, that was Little Night by Gigi Morales. Now we are going to sing probably the quintessential storytime song about nighttime. We're going to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So usually I put the lyrics in the description or in the comments, but for this one I didn't feel like it was necessary. So here we go. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Let's do that one more time before we move on to our next book. Everybody at home ready? Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Now, our next book is a little bit sillier, and I also like this book very much. This is called If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed. And this is by Denise Vega, illustrated by Zachariah Ahura. So this is If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed. I like this one because it's bedtime, but it's also got monsters, so it's got a little bit of Halloween to it. Time for bed. Who hates those words more than anything? That's right, your monster. But we all know what happens when a monster doesn't get enough sleep. Massive monster tantrums, refusing to join Sneak Up and Scare Your Sister game, and falling asleep in his slug mush. Hate it when that happens. Let's review a bedtime routine guaranteed to help any monster drift off into peaceful nightmare land. Rested and ready to play, toss the slime ball with the rest of the kids and the monsters. Don't, and remember this, kids, don't ask your parents to help you. They know a lot about putting kids to bed. They know nothing about putting monsters to bed. It's not their fault, they're just not good at it. Don't bring in your dog to cuddle. She'll bark and whine and chase your monster's tail, and then your monster will growl and snarl and chase your dog's tail, which will lead to a monster meltdown. And who wants that besides other monsters? Don't, and I need you to understand, do not do the monster stomp. Your monster will wiggle his waggle, flick his fur, clench his claws, and then the next thing you know, he'll be shaking his bristly bottom and won't want to stop. And then you will be shaking your unbristly bottom. So it will be just a big bottom shaking, waggle wiggling, fur flicking, claw clenching monster kid stomp, which will last all night. Save the monster stomp for daytime fun. Don't, and absolutely do not have your monster count sheep. You know what will happen, and sheep aren't good for a monster's digestion. All of that wool just makes him gassy. Don't give your monster a glass of milk. Monsters hate milk unless it's sour and green and smells like dirty underwear. And if you give them sour, green, dirty underwear smelling milk, they will stay up all night burping sour, green, dirty underwear smelling burps. And who wants that besides other you know whats? So I know that is a lot of don'ts. So if your monster won't go to bed, what do you do? Step 1. Pour your monster a nice big glass of calming, crunchy, cozy bug juice, slimed with ooey gooey snail trails. No monster can resist this. And maybe you can't either? Go ahead, take a sip. Step 2. Give your monster an ice cold shiver inducing bath to relax him, and make sure to scrub behind his ears with mud soap. Step 3. Brush your monster's fangs until they are at their smelly, rotten best, and don't forget to floss. Step 4. Help your monster find his favorite squishy squashy can't go to bed without a toy. Put all the other monster toys in your parents' bed. They will appreciate your thoughtfulness. Step 5. Read the freakiest, creepiest, scary story from your bookshelf, screaming where appropriate. Watch your monster's eyelids droop. If your monster asks for one more story, shout, "No way!" And get ready for step 6. In the key of Screech, sing Shock-a-bye Monster and listen to those gigantic monster snores, along with the snores of your family and maybe even the whole block. Congratulations, you've done it. Your monster has officially gone to bed. You are the master of monsters, the captain of creatures, the baron or baroness of boogeymen. You are so good, everyone in your neighborhood, and I mean everyone, will start asking you to help with their monsters. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Looks like that dragon won't put on her pajamas, and that werewolf won't stop howling, and that zombie is annoying the whole family. I know a lot about monsters, but nothing about dragons or werewolves or zombies. I am out of here. The end. So that was If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed. Now, usually I only do 2 stories, but I decided to get extra fun, and I'm going to share a third story. Before we get to that point, anybody who tuned in for shoutouts, we had a couple shoutouts from last week. We have a shout out for Ox, we have one for Natasha, and one for Pearl. Thank you so much for tuning in last week. Any kiddos watching right now, if you want your name shouted out next time, you'll have to actually wait until the next time. We have a very, very special guest tuning in with us on the 25th. So next Sunday, we have a special story time with Deja. So Deja is going to come in and read us all sorts of fun books about Halloween and other awesome topics. So that will be there next week. Again, ask your parents if it's okay to put your name in the comments, and I will shout you out in this coming story, the story time after next week. If you did not pick up a craft, we still have some available. They are in the children's department at the library. Just hop on over to the Reader's Theater and ring the bell, and we can bring you out some crafts. We have some left over. We've got little bedtime themed mobiles, and they've got stars and planets, and they're super fun. So this last book is very special to me. This was one of my favorite books when I was a kid. This is actually my copy from when I was a kid. If you cannot tell, it has seen some better days. It is as old as I am. So this is called No Jumping on the Bed by Ted Arnold. And for those of you who might know, Ted Arnold is the person who wrote the Fly Guy books. He used to draw things a lot differently. So I'm going to read my favorite bedtime story from when I was growing up. No Jumping on the Bed. In his bedroom near the top floor of a tall apartment building, Walter was getting ready for bed. Before turning out the lights, his father said, "If I told you once, I've told you a million times. No jumping on the bed. One day, it will crash right through the floor. Now lie down and go to sleep." "Just one more time?" asked Walter, but instead he plopped down on his pillow and squeezed his eyes closed. "Good night," said his father. He turned off the light and pulled the door almost closed. The room was dark and quiet, except for a soft thump, thump, thump coming from the room above. "That's Delbert upstairs," thought Walter. He switched on his bedside lamp. If Delbert can jump on his bed, then so can I. Walter bounced higher and higher. On his last jump, his hair brushed the ceiling, and when he came back down, his mattress creaked. The floor cracked, and the whole bed tipped sideways. Then down through the hole fell Walter, the bed and all. Now, It just so happened that Walter's bedroom was directly above Miss Hattie's dining room. So she was more than a little surprised when a bed fell through her ceiling and Walter landed in her plate of spaghetti and meatballs. I was not expecting company for dinner, she mumbled with a mouthful of meatballs. Mm-hmm, said Walter. Spaghetti is my all-time favorite. But before he could eat, his bed smashed through the table and kept on crashing right through the floor. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, the plate of spaghetti, the bed, and all. Miss Hattie's dining room was right above Mr. Maddie's TV room. Mr. Maddie didn't even notice a bed falling through his ceiling until a meatball bounced off his head. Miss Hattie tumbled into his lap and Walter splashed into the aquarium. I've already had my bath tonight, said Walter. He wanted to stay and watch the monsters on TV, but his bed crunched through the floor, taking the TV with it. Pardon. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, Mr. Maddie, the TV, the spaghetti, the bed, and all. Walter's Aunt Batty had just moved into the building. She was still unpacking when Miss Hattie, Mr. Maddie, and a dripping wet Walter tumbled through the ceiling and right into a box containing her rare Patagonian stamp collection. When he burst through the bottom of the box, Walter was a sticky mess. I see you've started collecting stamps, said Aunt Batty as she followed Walter down through the new hole in her floor. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, Mr. Maddie, Aunt Batty, the stamp collection, the TV, the spaghetti, the bed, and all. Can you tell I've read this book a lot? Patty and Natty had worked 3 days building their dream house with blocks. And afraid that Fatty Cat might knock something over, they carefully shooed her out for the night. Then the upstairs neighbors came through the ceiling. Excuse us, said Walter, remembering his manners. We won't be staying long. The words were barely past his lips when Walter's bed bashed through the floor and continued on its way. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, Mr. Maddie, Aunt Batty, Patty, Natty, Fatty Cat, the stamps, the TV, the spaghetti, the bed, and all. The last thing Mr. Hanratty ever expected was to see a bed coming through his studio ceiling, followed by nearly everyone in the building. If I had known you wanted to see my paintings, he said, I would have tidied up a little bit. But they never once paused to admire Mr. Hanratty's colorful artwork. They were too busy splashing in his cans of paint. Then his floor caved and everyone followed Walter's bed through the hole. Down and down fell Walter, Miss Hattie, Mr. Maddie, Aunt Batty, Patty, Natty, Mr. Henratty, Fatty Cat, 17 cans of paint, the TV, the stamps, paint, the stamps, the TV, the spaghetti, the bed, and all. I get a little bit too excited and then I mix around my words. Maestro Ferlingatti and his string quartet were astonished by the colorful crowd that fell from the ceiling. The maestro left an audience, but when Walter's bed smashed through the floor and paint splattered everywhere, the maestro wished his audience would leave. And so they did, along with his string quartet. Maestro Ferlingatti's practice room floor was also the basement ceiling. It was dark and quiet as midnight down there. Walter squeezed his eyes closed and he tumbled through the darkness until he landed on something soft. He opened his eyes and everything was in its place. His bedroom lights were out. The door was almost closed, and through it Walter could hear his mother and father talking quietly. No more jumping on the bed for me, mumbled Walter, and he lay back down to sleep. Suddenly, he heard a creak. The ceiling cracked, and down came Delbert. Down and down fell Delbert. The end. That was one of my all-time favorite picture books, No Jumping on the Bed by Ted Arnold. That is all I have for today, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Even though I can't see you in person, just knowing that you're there listening to the story makes my week. So next week, again, we have a very special guest, and I will see you the week after that. And again, don't forget to pick up your craft at the library by going to the Reader's Theater. I will see y'all when I see in 2 weeks. All right, bye everybody.